Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. You're listening to our Dungeons and Dragons game, and as always, I'm your host, the Dungeon Master, or DM for short. And if you haven't checked out our earlier videos, check those out because this is a continuation of those. So the prologue for this one is pretty much identical to the epilogue of the last video, and that is that the player characters are resting in area 211, where there is a giant brass gate. Arthur gets back some hit points that he had taken in the last adventure. And his shield device, which is a Black Panther, is it is basically like a clockwork panther, and it's licking his face and being friendly with him and that sort of thing. So then we get into the plot of the game we played this morning, and that is that the PCs head to area 217 on the map, which is the triangular chamber. This area was once of some importance, for its walls are plastered and painted, and evidence of carpeting can be seen in the corners, though now it is in ruin. The floor is covered with litter, filth, bones, and more. The walls are dirty and stained, with great chunks of plaster pulled off and gouge marks everywhere else below 10 foot tall. The room stinks, and an 8-foot long chain is bolted to the center of the floor. An owl bear is chained here to guard against unwelcome visitors, and as soon as the PCs step into the area, the owl bear begins hissing and clacking its beak. Voltaris Yol tries to befriend the beast and fails spectacularly, so the PCs kill it. They then go to area 222A, where they see some stairs, but they ignore those for now. Then they enter area 222, which is a 20-foot by 20-foot room. In here, the PCs kill 4 bugbears and 1 bugbear chieftain. Then they go to area 220, a side room. This small room was meant for minor functionaries of the water temple. Shreds of green drapery still hang from the walls, and part of a dirty green carpet remains in the southwest corner. 4 heaps of material, evidently used as sleeping mats, are evenly spaced on the floor. A long bench stands against the east wall, under which is a small keg. 4 bugbear guards are stationed here in service to the water temple. Each wears a green vest-like shirt over top of their armor. The PCs kill them and take their loot. Then the PCs go to area 221, the inner chamber. This room is much like the one to the south. A pair of beds are shoved together with a heavy chest beside them. A large table and chair are the only other furnishings. 3 barrels stand along the south wall. In this room, the PCs kill 1 ogre and take the loot. After that, they head to area 224, which is 20 feet by 20 feet. This plastered, painted chamber was one of the many guest rooms of the temple. It now holds a cot, 2 sofas, some cushions, a small table, and a battered cabinet. The carpeting on the floor is of a gray hue, indicating connection to the air temple. It is here that the PCs kill 4 more bugbears as well as 2 gnolls. In area 225, the Grim Chamber, the PCs encounter Kano, a cleric that Voltaris Yol nukes with his fire breath, burning everything in this room. From there, it's off to 223, the Jumbled Room. This 20-foot by 30-foot chamber contains many odds and ends of furniture. 3 wooden chairs, 2 armchairs, a large table, some small tables, a desk, 3 couches, a cot, and countless cushions and pillows, In here, the PTs kill 6 more bugbears. Then they go to Area 226, the kitchen. This place is dirty and full of litter, but has been used lately. Ashes are in both fireplaces on the west wall. The long trestles, which run down the center of the room, are full of earthenware dishes and food scraps. 4 barrels stand along the south wall. Some large blackened sausages are strung over the ceiling arches. Heaps of old rags and skins are piled helter-skelter in all the corners. This place is apparently used as a camp as well as a mess hall. Here, the PCs kill 6 more bugbears and rescue 4 goblin slaves. From there, the PCs go to Area 213. This huge hall, 40 feet by 90 feet, has an arched ceiling some 30 feet overhead. The many buttresses and arches form a tracery of shadowy dimness. The ceiling's exact height is not discernible. The floor and walls are covered in slabs of polished stone, apparently azurite malachite, from the swirls of blue intermingled with the deep green. Some magic was evidently placed here, for a soft, cloudy, greenish luminosity seeps from the walls and floor, seemingly floating in the air, making the whole chamber appear as if deep underwater. This impression is enhanced by the bronze doors, fountain, and other work, all covered in verdigris. Even the damp air seems to smell of the sea. Several weird things in this place come to the PC's immediate attention. In the middle of the west wall is a great sheet of bronze, a bas-relief of an underwater vista. Excuse me. Seaweed, shells, and various forms of marine life. The head of a fish-like thing projects from this, a most hideous visage. Its ghastly maw emits a stream of water which falls into a tiered series of 4 basins. The fourth and largest never overflows, so it must have a drain system somewhere. Near the mid portion of the hall, some 40 feet distant from the east wall and 30 feet from the north wall, is a bronze altar with many marine creatures sculpted in bas relief upon its sides. It is about 4 feet high and round, with a 10-foot diameter. Its top is concave, and a shallow basin, apparently 2 feet deep, is filled with water. The bottom of the basin is filled with coins, a sprinkling of gems, and many small seashells. In the mouth of a 20-foot wide alcove south of the altar basin stands an idol or statue of serpentine stone, expertly sculpted to depict a writhing, amorphous amalgamation of fish, eels, octopi, and other marine monsters. This horrid thing is about 8 feet high and nearly as broad, the whole forming a globular mass standing about 4 feet from the altar basin. The alcove to its rear is 10 feet deep, the back wall of which is covered by a drapery, apparently fashioned from seaweed and water. Each corner of the hall is filled by a triangular plinth, filling it and extending about 20 feet upwards. Atop each of these columns is a gargoyle-like statue made of bronze and coated with verdigris. The whole place radiates a dim magic and is pervaded with evil. In use, offerings are brought to the fountain and dipped in each basin, highest to lowest, before being placed on the altar. When this procedure is not followed, the gargoyles on the plinths give chase. The air maiden uses a fire spell on the idol, which is actually a juggernaut. It can roll over victims, inflicting 10d10 damage, 10d10 points of damage, or reach out in any direction with eel heads, tentacles, pincers, and other forms of attack to 6-foot range, doing so 4 times each round, inflicting 2d6 points of damage with each attack. So the entire party, except for Grabthar, focuses on the Juggernaut. They destroy it, while Grabthar uses his lightning on the lesser opponents. After that, the PCs go to Area 214, the lounge. This 20-foot by 30-foot room is furnished in rich green rugs, carpets, draperies, furniture, etc. 4 bronze pedestals, one in each corner of the room, hold green globes of some odd sort, which provide a greenish illumination for the area. 2 upholstered armchairs and side tables are to the north. The center of the room is dominated by a long table with 4 chairs. Upon the table are green vessels, a decanter, 6 goblets, several bowls and plates, a basin, and a small box. A high desk stands against the west wall just south of the door. Upon it are a few scraps of parchment and writing tools. A large wardrobe stands by a door in the south wall. 2 evil clerics are here. The PCs kill them and take the treasure. Area 215 is a salon. Here, the PCs encounter Belsornig, chief cleric of the nearby water temple, a vile person full of hubris and wickedness. Voltairus nukes him with his breath weapon. Then the PCs go to Area 216, the pool chamber. This large room was fashioned of great blocks of polished serpentine, save the domed ceiling of polished crystal, made to reflect everything in the room in a distorted way. Concentrating light upon the center of the large oval pool of water in the center of the chamber. The whole place seems to be lit with a blue-green light from this pool, and at the same time, the pool seems to absorb light, capturing it in its heart. Pale green flames come from 8 bronze cressets, 4 on the east wall and 4 on the west. The flames shed light, but not heat. Tapestries of the vilest sort cover the east and west sections of the north wall. The south wall shows a mosaic of some great 10-armed octopoid monster holding a sacrificial victim in each tentacle. The monster is fashioned from dark purple tiles with reddish highlights and green orbs. The pool is an oval, 20 feet across and 30 feet long, set in a basin of small lapis lazuli tiles. The crystal clear water allows vision to the very bottom of the basin. The edge depth appears to be about 4 feet. The floor slopes steeply to the middle to 12 foot deep, where some sort of humanoid is chained. The PCs suddenly receive a telepathic message. The Triton is pleading to be released so that it can prevent their deaths when the Kraken, shown on the wall, materializes and attacks. It will appear at any moment. So, as many as can, jump into the pool to help the Triton break its chains. This is what it's asking them to do. Do it soon before it's too late. So I want to take a moment here in my notes. I'm reading my notes here. A lot of this is copied and pasted from the adventure. Nobody fell for this. At this point in the module, at any point, the PCs have to decide whether the module is with them or against them. They always think it's against them, and thus far, they've always been right. So nobody falls for this. Eliza, the Air Maiden, asks her intelligent sword to detect evil, and it does. So they attack. The Beholder kills the Triton using his death ray, and the pool itself is an intelligent creature from the elemental plane of water, which the Air Maiden freezes to defeat. After everything is dealt with in this room, and this room was a huge problem, by the way. I kind of gloss over the combat, but we spent a really long time in this room, and the water creature was hard to deal with. So after that fight, everybody was really low on hit points, so they took a long rest. After that, they went to area 218, which is an abandoned storeroom. Here they killed a troll, and then they do the same in area 219 and area 203, which, despite the fact the numbers are kind of all over the place there, those three are all in a row. The flame breath of Voltaris and the fire sword that the party found earlier helps a lot with these three rooms. So finally, the PCs go to area 202, and this was the last room of the day. And this is the domed chamber. This 40-foot diameter area has an arched ceiling some 30 feet high. Its polished stones indicate that it was once meant for some special purpose, lost now under a litter of refuse, bones, and dung. A huge metal ring has been cemented into the floor, and a heavy iron chain of about 8 feet is fastened to the ring. A 5-headed Hydra is bound by a leg chain. When the PCs enter, the Hydra hisses loudly and strikes. At first, the PCs try some attacks that don't work very well, but soon the Air Maiden discovers that her ice sword does work really well. So she starts to cut off heads, and then the stumps freeze, preventing the Hydra from growing 2 more heads, right? And then Arthur uses her other sword, the one that's not intelligent. And in the end, it's Arthur who cuts off the last head. And we get into the epilogue. So now that the PCs have cleared level 2 of the dungeon, they search the Hydra's chamber, and they discover a secret door and floor. And inside of it is the first piece of the rod of 7 parts. This piece glows blue and has the word ecce carved into it. Ecce is the Latin word for behold. Arthur reaches out for it, and a saving throw is made. Arthur rolls high, and the rod accepts Arthur. So when Arthur touches this piece, the blue glow becomes brighter, and the whole domed chamber is full of blue light. In space, Atropos has been chasing the elven spelljammer that Habishi was on, because Habishi was the last person to touch the rod of 7 parts, which, to the best of the PC's knowledge, is the only thing that can destroy Atropos. However, as soon as Arthur has a piece of the rod in his hands, Atropos can now sense his current whereabouts. So Atropos turns around and heads for the planet Orth, which is where the Greyhawk stuff takes place. So Atropos's new target is the Temple of Elemental Eden. So that is where we left this game. I thought it was very interesting that, of course, the parts with Atropos, that's not in the module at all. That's me doing that. That, up until that point, I think it's very, very safe to say my players have not enjoyed this module at all. In their opinions, it sort of fights dirty. It's full of cheap shots. There's situations where normally anybody else would give somebody a saving throw to dodge a certain attack or whatever. And there are points in the module where, in parentheses, it'll just say, they don't get a saving throw here. So yeah, I think it's very safe to say my players despise this module. And I'm sure there are fans of it out there. More power to you. I'm not telling you how to feel. But we really haven't been having much fun. And so my original plan was to run the entire module, and then in the very last room with the final boss for the entire dungeon, I was going to put the piece of the Rod of Seven Parts there. But, you know, a dungeon master has to adapt. So I see my players just feeling miserable and just hating it, you know. And so I don't want them to feel that way. I don't want to turn them off on gaming in general, you know. Um, so I was ready to call it quits here. Um, as soon as I put, you know, I decide, you know what, just screw this dungeon. Let's put the rod here. Everybody wants the dungeon itself destroyed. Um, if a trope, because Atropus's whole thing that it does is it crashes into a planet and it creates this epicenter of destruction. And then spelljammers and stuff will try to flee that world. So I thought, if you had to pick a spot to get Atropus to hit, this is the perfect spot to do it. You know what I mean? Um, so I thought, let's just nuke the temple. Let's get on the spelljammers. Let's leave. Let's evacuate as many innocent bystanders as we can. Um, so on and so forth. And I was very surprised that when they got the rod, well, it's not the entire rod of seven parts, it's just the first part. The way we do it is the 7 pieces, we do the Roy G. Biv thing. So this was the blue piece. And you know, each one's you know, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Those are the 3 parts. Or excuse me, the 7 parts. I don't know why I said 3. Um, but at any rate, you know, as soon as you get one, that will lead you to the next piece. And I was going to have that be on a completely different world. And this was going to be like a spelljammer scavenger hunt thing, going from world to world, trying to stay one step ahead of the killer planet, basically, that's chasing everybody. But anyway, I was really surprised that my players kind of didn't want to quit doing the dungeon yet. And they're like, well, how much more is there to go? And I told them, I said, you know, there's quite a bit more to go, actually. And so like my daughter, she kind of wants to bail out. She's like, yeah, I'm sick of this. And on her end, you know, a lot of people that I know just aren't that excited about role-playing games anymore. They could be doing, you know, they could just be watching something on YouTube or playing a video game, or there's so many other things they could be doing. They really don't feel like all the cheap shots in this module. You know what I mean? Um, so she was kind of wanting to bail. I was really surprised that my son, who plays the Beholder, he was wanting to finish it out. And I think his attitude was like, if we've already come this far, like the dungeon has annoyed me so much, I want to complete the dungeon. So I thought that was interesting because earlier he had also been talking about kind of bailing on me. Um, and then my wife, uh, she kind of wants to stick with it. So I don't know what we're gonna do. We called it quits for today. Um, you know, I'll have to talk to him, I guess, and see how everybody's feeling. Unfortunately, every single member of my family has depression. My wife and I both have depression. Our kids both have depression. And I gotta say, the dungeon is not great for that. Um, it it can be very dreary and so on and so forth. Usually when I'm running stuff, I tend to run a lot of outdoor encounters, and um I would describe the tone of a lot of my stuff as maybe something more akin to like Zelda. Um my stuff tends to be kind of colorful and kind of high fantasy and that sort of thing. Um and this is not that, you know. So I'll have to talk to them and figure out if we want to try to just have it be the two PCs and then a handful of NPCs and keep going, or maybe they're just in the mood for a dungeon in general, because I really wanted to do Barrier Peaks. And one of the reasons I did this one was to level them up some before they got to Barrier Peak. For those who are unfamiliar, that's a different D&D module. I've played that one before. I love that module. And the whole deal with it is there's a crashed flying saucer um like kind of sticking out the side of a mountain. And there's been an avalanche, or not an avalanche, a rock slide, excuse me. A rock slide has happened there over the years, so this flying saucer is pretty much buried. But one of the things I was thinking of was I really thought it would be cool to do Spelljammer, but that's the party's ship. Um, and to be able to get that out of the mountain, I thought would be kind of neat. Um, and so if my players are just in the mood for a dungeon crawl, that's what we could do then, is do that. Because like I said, Atropos is coming, you know. Um, and that was another thing they were really worried about, you know, is he going to arrive in the very next game session because we only have the one piece of the rod. And I told him, I said, well, you got to understand like how many astronomical units out into space he is in terms of distance and how fast he moves, which compared to a lot of other space things like Star Trek or Star Wars or something like that, Spelljammers move at like a snail's pace. So it's going to be a while before Atropos gets here. So they have time, you know, they got some wiggle room for, you know, doing a dungeon crawl. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm not going to run anything else this weekend for sure. I don't know when the next game will be. I need to kind of think about it. At any rate, I thought there were some interesting moments in this one. I hope that you found this to be interesting too. If you'd like to support the channel, as always, be sure to hit like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, all that jazz, and we'll see you in the next one.